Hello everybody and welcome back to yet another Pokemon Emerald video. Assuming that there won't be any more major delays, you should be watching it at Easter, so happy Easter if you celebrate it. It would have been a good idea to use a Pokemon that represents the holiday. Instead, I am here playing with the crazed up Scyther hand maniac bug. Let's go over the rules. I can only use my starter in combat. I can't use items from the bag in battle. I can't raise my evasion in any way, and I can't use cheats or glitches. I remember Scyther being decent in the first generation, even though it had issues with how the crits are done in those games. I am curious to see if with that problem fixed, it will be better, or if this region's obstacles will stop it in its tracks. The first few fights in the game are somewhat easy for Scyther. It starts with an usable move in quick attack, and with a good base attack stat, the rival and the few trainers along the route will not be a challenge. I also played with Pinsir a few weeks ago, which is the other big bug from Generation 1. Pinsir surprised me in a very good way, so let's hope that Scyther does the same. The only major problem I see with Scyther is its lack of diverse moves. Well, there is another thing actually. It's a huge weakness to rock moves, and guess which type the first gym is? Yeah, Roxanne did not go very well when I tried her at level 18. I hoped that Pursuit being special would allow me to cheese her a little, but they just do way too much damage, so I had to go grind in the grass for a while. I came back at 25, which is much higher, but they still do a lot of damage with Rock Tomb, and I lose half of my HP against the Geodudes alone. For Nosepass, I was still using Pursuit, but then I was curious about Wing Attack. It got a crit and exploded the stone. I guess I should have used it earlier. Next is the May optional fight before leaving town, and this one was a breeze. I am very overleveled with a good move, so her team did not stand a chance. After defeating her, I made my way to Brawly's gym. This one should be extremely easy too. I am super effective on his whole team, and they can't do that much damage to me in return thanks to the typing. For once, things go as expected, and I am able to one-shot each of his Pokémons with a wing attack each. Now that we have the first two badges of the game, we can make our way to Slateport, where after defeating some people at the beach, we have to rescue the captain from a couple of Team Aqua grunts. Much like the previous two fights, they are very easy to deal with. One wing attack is good enough to explode each of their Pokémons. The only thing they can do is watch them faint and hurt me a little with a rough skin, I guess. Once we have defeated those guys too, we have some more training to do to prepare for the next match against our rival. Usually this encounter with May is pretty scary, but today I was feeling very confident. Sure, her starter evolved, but that also made it weak to wing attack, which means that I can just spam it and get through her team without any of them even touching me. Next up is Watson, and he is also a dangerous trainer, especially if you are using flying types, but today he will not have that much fun, because just before the fight against him I learned Swords Dance, which is the single most important move of Scyther's life. I spend a few turns setting up against his electric, and from there I can one-shot his Pokémons with Slash, even Magneton, who resists it and is usually the biggest pain in the butt. With the third badge obtained, we can keep journeying through the region until we reach Meteorfall Caves, where we see the two teams arguing. I'm surprised that they are not already having Pokemon battles. Instead, for that we have to wait a little and climb a mountain, where eventually we reach the leader of the Team Magma. We start a fight with Maxi, and his team is a bit problematic. Mightyena can intimidate and is generally very annoying. Also, Camerapt will do a lot of damage if he has the opportunity with rock or fire moves. Fortunately, this time I had none of those problems, so that's another road bump passed, and we can now set our sights to the next gym. Flannery, as you may know, is very fond of fire types, which could be a problem for me, considering I am using a bug, but she is not exactly a very bright trainer and uses magnitude against me. Ultimately, I can set up against her lead, having to hit only one overhit. With my attack through the roof, I can sweep through her team, and with that we have obtained yet another badge of this region. The only thing we can do now is backtrack until we reach our dad's gym, where we have to challenge him for the normal badge. His team is a bit scary too, since it can do lots of damage with normal moves, and this time I can't set up against the lead, since it can confuse me. That's not a big deal, as I used a few dances with Vigoroth and then swept him again. Well, sort of, I still stalled a turn with Slacking, since you never know when counter will destroy you. I can now finally use Surf, and with that comes a lot of good moves that Scyther cannot learn, so we just move on to the next version of the region, starting with the fight in the Weather Institute. Shelly still has an annoying Mightyena, but that's not quite enough to stop Scyther unless she gets extremely lucky with the confusion from Swagger. Now that we cleared this place out, we can resume our journey only to be stopped by May a few steps later. Even though she improved her team quite a bit compared to our previous encounter, she still stands no chance, and I again can spam Wing Attack until all of her Pokémons are defeated. I did not need to set up, but since her Pelipper is always stalling with Protect, might as well do it. Now that we took care of the rival again, it's time to challenge the next gym. Once again, it's a gym that technically should be hard for us considering the typing, but ends up being very easy. Just make sure to defeat the Swablu ASAP, as it knows Perish Song, and obviously if she can use it, that's a loss. Instead, set up against Tropius or Pelipper, who are much less dangerous. Once you are satisfied with the levels of boosting, you can start another sweep, with either Slash or Wing Attack. Considering your attack should be in the 600s, it really does not matter which one you use. After defeating Winona and getting the badge for Fly, we can move on to the next town, where we have the last match against May. Today I wanted to defeat her, not only to include it in the video, but because she is guarding a pretty decent move that I unfortunately forgot to pick up until much later in the game. The fight itself is not that impressive. Most of her team is weak to flying, so I can just use Wing Attack until all of her Pokémon stop moving. Now that we have defeated her for the last time, we can go to the Pokemon Cemetery where we find Archie speaking with an old lady. And after he leaves, she gives us the magma emblem that we have to use to enter the super secret Team Magma base. Deep in the bowels of this complex, we find Maxi who is using the blue orb to summon Groudon. But since it's the wrong color, he is unable to control the legendary, so it flees. Frustrated from his failures, Maxi attacks us, so we have to teach him a lesson again. The fight does start off not great, as my Tiena is able to cripple our speed, but since our base stat is super high, I am still faster than Camerupt and can defeat him in one hit. Next up is the Team Aqua admin in their base, who, even though is very weak, is still able to hold us up long enough for Archie to escape using the stolen submarine. The next major fight is the next gym against Tate and Liza, and by just watching the typing, it should be easy for us. Guess what? It was not. Scyther is king of defeating expectations in both ways apparently. Their Pokémons do a lot of damage since my special defense is not great, even if it is boosted by the nature. Unfortunately, 2 Sword Dance do not allow me to reliably kill his Meteor Pokémons, so I have to set up 3 of them, but in the meantime I end up losing most of my HP. All the crit and boost from Claydol did not help the situation either. In the successful attempt, I just got a bit more lucky. They were not as aggressive, so I had enough HP left to tank their hits while I was defeating their Pokémons one by one. Lunatone puts me to sleep, which is not great, but I wake up pretty quick and can finish the job, finally earning me the penultimate badge. And now it's time for the other double fight. I'm not sure why this one is always such a pain to voice over, but today it was a bit more exciting. Only because there was an actual chance of dying. Their Camerupts know Rock Slide. Usually they don't use it much, but today, since they had a very weak target to it, I saw it more than once. I also saw the rare Mightyena switch out, which is actually quite powerful against me, since my attack will be lowered once more when that Pokemon comes out again. Also, not sure if you noticed, but Metang only used Light Screen, which is not very useful. I would have much preferred Reflect to protect me from the rock and flying moves. Steven, are you trying to sabotage me? Because of all those things combined, my HP got quite low in the end. Not low enough for the annoying beep beep though. Once we have defeated those guys too, the ex-champion gives us the Dive HM, and as soon as I teach it to the TM slave, I can reach the next major story fight in the seafloor cave against Archie. His team is very similar to Maxi, but without the threat of the Camerupt destroying me with rock moves, I felt much safer. My Tiena is still a bit of a pain since it uses Swagger, but surprisingly I never hit myself. That's odd. Even though we won the fight, we sort of lost the war since the red orb triggers all on its own and awakens the other legendary. With both of them active, a weather war starts that is threatening to mess up the delicate balance of the region's ecosystem, so we have to go ask help to a higher power. Rayquaza, who eats meteors for breakfast, fixes everything in literally 10 seconds flat, so that's great for humankind. Last and maybe least, it's time for the fight against Juan. Once again, it's better not to set up against the lead because of confusion, but as soon as something less annoying comes out, I can use a couple of swords dance to increase my attack and sweep. I am pretty sure Aurora Beam cannot freeze, otherwise I would have been screwed. With good attack, I can one-shot all of his Pokémons, and with that, we are done with the gym challenges. Next is the Victory Road, where not long after entering, we are reached by Wally, who is here to offer us a serious fight. Even though Altaria can use Aerial Ace, I still set up in its face, and after just 2 boosts, I can bonk pretty much all of his team with Return. Before entering, I also remembered to go grab the move I was talking about earlier. Substitute is found in the mall that May stands in front of, and it's going to be very useful for some of the league fights. After defeating the last of Wally's Pokémons, I can clear the rest of the Victory Road, and without much else to do, I can start the league. The first member of the Elite Four is Sidney, and he is the main reason why I wanted to use a substitute in the first place. If you are behind the sub, all of the status moves miss you, which is extremely useful in this fight, since that's pretty much all he does. The sub gives me 3 turns to set up, and once I have increased my attack by a bunch, I can sweep his team with pretty much any move I want. As expected, Sidney was a free win once you disable his ability to mess with you using status and debuff moves. Next up is Pheobe, and here I intentionally played not safe. I am not sure if she can use a curse if you have a substitute, so I tried to give her a couple of turns to use it. She refused to curse me, which leads me to believe it does not work if you have a sub up. It's not guaranteed, but at least she seems to be much more reluctant to use it. If true, that's great news, as I can make one of the most RNG fights in the game a lot more reliable in future runs. The third Elite Four is Glacia, and she is a bit dangerous since ice moves are super effective against me, but I can use sub against her lead to buy me a couple of turns to set up with. Once I have enough Swords Dance, I should have enough attack to one-shot all of her Pokémons before they can move. Hail and Sand too are able to hit through the substitute, so you still end up taking the weather damage. It's annoying, but it should not be that big of a factor, as they only last 5 turns and cannot deal that much damage. After defeating Glacia, it's time for the most scary fight in the league. Drake has a lot of rock and fire moves that can deal massive damage to me. And if that was not enough, his lead Shelgon can slow me down with the Rock Tomb. Usually I can set up a bit against it anyway by using the White Herb. Today I tried to do that and use a sub, but mostly got trolled by him, so I was only able to set up a little. I had to use another Swords Dance with Flygon, who tanks me with a flamethrower to the face that I just barely leave. From here I cannot spend any more turns increasing my attack, and fortunately even after the Salamence Intimidate I can defeat all of his Pokémons in one hit without having to take another fatal blow. Well, that was a bit of a mess, but I managed to get through it with no resets. Let's now focus our attention to the last fight against the champion. Here I can employ the usual strategy and lower Wailord's HP, then set up, and then sweep. It's a bit clunky since he often heals it, but it works good enough until he uses Blizzard. Having PTSD from all the freezes in the past, I decided that's enough setting up for today and decided to go on the offensive. Another sort of important thing is to stall out the rain so that Ludicolo is not super fast, and thankfully it lines up just right as the rain stops as I take out the whale. From here, a +4 return is enough to defeat his Pokémons. It gets a bit dicey with Gyarados because Intimidate, but he still cannot leave my attack, and that's how Scyther became champion of the Hoenn region. Overall, the run was sort of easy, other than those couple of hard spots. Not sure if using Substitute against Tate and Liza would have helped. If anybody wants to try that out, feel free to let me know. Thank you for watching, I hope you liked the video. If you have a second to spare, click the like, subscribe and bell buttons down below. And share the video with a friend if you found it interesting. If you have any feedback, video ideas, suggestions or anything else, write them down in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Bye!